In fitting the helmet, it is always proper to take all jewelry off first. Then when it comes to that, the next step is to take a measuring tape and measure the player's head size and determine that head size. When doing that, all you have to do is take your measuring tape, take it an inch, thumb width above the eyebrow line, running it over the occipital or the bump in the head in the back, and determine the head size by pulling the tape snug. We believe that fitting him in a large shell is going to be the appropriate size for his helmet. Before donning the Revolution, you should always make sure that the helmet is totally deflated and that you make the player aware of the ear channels. Once the helmet is donned, you're going to check for the height of the helmet and see where it falls in regards to his eyebrow line. So Jordan, at this time, what I'd like you to do is please don this helmet and let's see what happens. And as you can see, with Jordan's height, you ideally would like a thumb width above the eyebrow line. Once the height is determined and is appropriate for the player, we're going to do what we call the roll test. And that's where we roll the helmet forward to make sure it doesn't come down over his eyebrow line and come in contact with his nose. Jordan, stiffen your neck. I'm going to roll it forward. So on contact, the helmet will not come down in front of his over his eyebrow line or come in contact with his nose. If you determine that you need more height to the helmet, all you have to do is inflate the crown liner. With that, you take your inflation bulb to the top valve and inflate, keeping the hose bent at a 90 degrees. What we want to do is have the player stiffen his neck, and we're going to rotate the helmet to the left and then to the right and see if we can see this forehead skin pinch just a little bit. With that, we're going to do our side-to-side test, and when doing that, we ask the player to stiffen his neck, and we're going to rotate the helmet to the left and to the right and see if we have a good front-to-back fit. With doing that, we're going to stiffen the neck, we're going to rotate to the left and rotate to the right, and we want to see the forehead skin pinch just a little to ensure that we have a good front-to-back fit. If more air for better fitting is needed, all you have to do is to inflate the back neck side liner. With that, insert your inflation pump into the valve in the rear of the helmet, keep it at 90 degrees, and inflate. What we do now is we look for the side-to-side additional fitting of the Z-pad area on the side of the helmet. We want to ensure that there's good contact with the Z-pad to the cheek and mandible area of the jawline. This next phase is we are going to check the side fitting again in regards to the Z-pad area of the helmet to ensure that he's got good contact between the Z-pad and the cheek of the jaw of his face to ensure that we have good side-to-side fit and contact. The inflation part of the Z-pad, we want to be able to inflate the Z-pad, and you'll watch that the inflation occurs by just inflating like you do a normal liner. The next part of the fitting process is to install and attach the chin strap to the player. When putting the chin strap onto the player, have the player hold the cup in place and literally take it up and make sure the sizing is right. So from there, we do this side. From this side, we come and attach it, just like that. This side is very simple to attach. And then from this side, we attach it. You want to ensure when the chin strap is on that the cup is straight, the straps are taut and snug, but not over tight. Because if the chin strap is over tight, it has a tendency to slip off of the chin. The final piece to the fitting process is to select an appropriate style face mask for the player. We know that Jordan is a running back, so what we're going to choose most likely is a G2BD-R to be installed onto his helmet. That will give him the vision and the mandible and jaw protection that he's going to require playing that position. We're going to make a transition into our youth area. With regards to our helmet line, we also make a youth Revolution. You want to ensure that you have a proper fit in regards to the height adjustment of the player, the side-to-side fit of the player, a proper contact of the jawline with the Z-pad area, and to choose a proper face mask and chin strap to make the appropriate fit. When measuring a player's shoulder width, what we want to do is take a measuring tape and measure across the shoulders from the tip of the humerus across to the other tip of the humerus and determine the player's shoulder width. With that, we have determined that Josh is in the area of a 19 to 19.5 measurement. Once we've determined his shoulder width measurement, we're going to select the proper style shoulder pad for Josh's position. We have determined that Josh is a linebacker for his position, so we've chosen a Power 86 dB large shoulder pad to try on him. When putting on the shoulder pad, we take the shoulder pad, try not to poke him in the eyes, and bring it down over his shoulders. First thing we do when looking at the shoulder pad on his shoulders, we want to look at the neck opening to ensure that the shoulder pad doesn't pinch or bind anywhere on his neck opening. Second thing we do when fitting the shoulder pad is to look at the tip of the humerus to see where the foam comes in relationship to the tip of the humerus. Third thing we do look for when fitting the shoulder pad is to look at the coverage of the sternum bone, sternum area in the front of the player's body. We want to ensure that the shoulder pad comes down and gives proper and adequate coverage to the sternum area, which it does. The next thing on the list for fitting of the shoulder pad is to ensure that he's got proper coverage of the foam over his front deltoid muscle in the upper part of his shoulder area. That's what these pads do, is protect the frontal anterior deltoid of the player. One of the last things we look for in the coverage of the shoulder pad is to ensure that there's proper scapula and rhomboid coverage of the pad on the backside of the player. After that, we want to ensure, by bringing Josh around, now it's time to strap up the pad to ensure that we still have adequate coverage on every part of the player. So by doing that, you take the strap and ensure that you have adequate, snug strapping of the player, but not to the point where you cut off his air supply. With that, you also can bring the elastic straps around, and they tie in up here at the grommet area, right there. And this one will come around and tie into this grommet area right there. You also want to ensure with the elastic straps that it doesn't irritate the armpit region. In the final overview of the player, once the belts and straps are attached, we want to ensure that the belts are snug and taut. You actually should run these through so that they don't poke out into the player. You want to ensure that you have proper sternum coverage on the player to know that he's got proper coverage here. The neck opening is not binding or pinching the neck opening of the player in any sense or direction. You want to ensure that you have proper coverage over the humerus tip with at least a 1/4 inch of foam over that area to protect it. We know that there's proper scapula and rhomboid coverage, and with that, I feel that Josh has a very good fit.